Hello there. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Hope we are all doing incredibly well. I just realised I hadn't turned on the good old light thing, and then I remembered, and then it flashbanged me, so that was fun. Anyway, welcome on in. Welcome to the stream. We got a little bit of transfer news to discuss. We'll do a little bit of conversation about the Leeds United links that have happened today. In addition to that, we'll have a cat out of the room. A little bit of discussion around what absolute madness is going on at Chelsea, that they have somehow decided that it's a good move for them to spend £117 million on Morgan Rogers. I've got no idea why they've done that. That's genuinely insanity, but you know what? They can make their own decisions. It's fine. I will not be around for an extended period of time, mainly because I also have to work tonight. So I finished my shift a few minutes ago, grabbed something to eat. Then later I've got the France versus England match that I'm working, which is always going to be good fun. It's a match that I don't even want to be in, but that's the way that it is. James, you got to wait for that. I'm gonna save it for like the good stuff towards the end of the stream, you know. But we're going to start on Pavel. I don't want to call him Sulc, because that feels wrong. Sulc? Maybe? How do you pronounce the S with the... Schulch? Schulch? Hold on, let's ask Google. Google, how do I pronounce Pavel Sulc? Pavel Sulc. Pronounce. Okay. Oh, there's a video just for this. Right, okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm
Hello.
Dr. Franz Lang,
Oh.
and I'm here to teach you correct pronunciations in English, as
Thank you,
well as
Franz.
in many other languages.
Oh.
In Czech, his native language, the name of this creative midfielder is pronounced.
Place your bets before we get into it. I'm going to go Pavel, because Pavel makes sense. I'm going to go with a Pavel rather than Pavel, just because it's a little bit more flowy, but we'll see.
Pavel Sulc.
Pavel Sulc.
Pavel Sulc.
Pavel Sulc. Pavel Schultz is what I'm going to go with. So that's what we're going to call him, Pavel Sulc. There's somewhere is a word there. But this was reported by Santi Auna, who I can never get his name quite right. Why are there so many people today that there is just no chance of pronouncing their names? I don't know. But that's the world that we're living in right now. He is currently playing for Lyon, and he is a very, very, very good footballer. Typically plays as a number 10, I believe, but I'm just going to make sure I get all my information correct, because I don't like being wrong on stream. It makes me look a bit silly, which is why the countdown thing is maybe a bad idea. But before I get into all that, do what Danny's recommended. Like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Hello to everyone that said hello. By the way, I've not had a chance to sort of bounce off y'all yet. But Pavel Sulc, I tried so hard, is a pretty damn good player. So last season he had 27 appearances in League 1. He started 17 of those. And in those 17 games that he started, he managed to get himself 11 goals, which is frankly daft. That is an obscene amount of goals to be scoring from the 10. In addition to that, he got himself 3 assists from an expected assist of 1.91, so he may have gotten relatively lucky. He might have had a little bit more support from the players around him. But ultimately, this guy is looking like one of those players that, having gone to Lyon last season, has had a big sort of breakout season and played incredibly well. Apparently his strengths are anchor play, positioning and high pressing, which is also fantastic. High pressing is what you need out of an Aronson replacement. Positioning is genuinely a necessity for any number 10, I would say. And then his anchor play means that you can sort of bounce off and play around him, which is lovely. Hello. But at the same time, Lyon are still financially struggling. Hold on, I'm just going to shoo Iris out of the room for a minute. But I'm going to keep on talking, because Pavel, I'm not going to bother with the surname anymore, because it is significantly harder to pronounce than Julian Brandt, has a really, really, really high ceiling. Especially when you consider the fact that he's 25 years old, Brandt is 30. Schultz is nearly approaching his peak, which means that he's going to be getting to his best possible level at the moment. And sure, he's not quite 6 foot tall. He doesn't quite suit Big Bastard FC, but he does a job. And I will be honest with you, if we were to sign him, I think he'll be a genuinely incredible addition to the side. I wouldn't have any problem with that at all. James Howe, he can play anywhere in the front three. Sort of. Let's have a quick look at his heat map. Oh, Christ. I hate how SofaScore zooms in way too far when you want it to zoom in. Okay, so heat map for Ligue 1. The bloody French. There we go, that'll do. So, pop over to here. Here's his heat map. So yes, you are right that he can sort of play anywhere across that front line. Very clearly, he's got plenty of the ball out here, down here, up there, back there. There's not so much back there, but that's sort of fine. There's plenty of flexibility there, to be honest with you, and I'm sort of happy with that because we could really do with players that are rather flexible. I'm not sure if I agree with the 78 RPM saviour there, saying that you want him and Brandt, not either or, especially when you consider that we've already got Harry Wilson in. And Wilson can also be a number 10. So if you are potentially looking at signing 3 players, all of whom can be wing and 10, then maybe you're doing a little bit too much stuff. Or you're showing your key players that you don't necessarily have that level of trust in them, and I'm not convinced that that's the best way to go. Purely because you're making things a little bit more difficult for those players to have that impact. 1 second, I'm just going to make sure that that is open and ready to go. And you guys can make sure that the stream's working just fine by popping a like on it. Thank you very much. You see, got to do the smooth reads. That's what you need. But yeah, Pavel Sulc. Pavel Sulc. This is going to be a running theme right now. And I'm going to answer Tom Johansson's question right away. Arguably the one of the two that I would prefer. Mainly because he's got a lot more time in him. When it comes to attacking midfielders and players in those aggressive areas, you rely quite a bit on your fitness, which means that the moment your fitness starts dropping away, sure, you could be a Lionel Messi and just walk around for 90 minutes and rip things apart. But you're not going to be Lionel Messi the vast majority of the time. The vast majority of the time, you're going to fall off with your physical attributes. And we don't know where that cliff is for the majority of players. So to invest a significant amount in Julian Brandt for several years is going to be big in terms of wage spend, but also big in terms of risk. Because there's always going to be an opportunity cost. There's always going to be, well, we could have signed this guy instead, and this guy is a better player than X, Y, or Z. Over the length of a contract, who do you think you're going to get more out of? I would say probably Pavel Sulc. It's a complicated one, obviously, because we know that Julian Brandt's ceiling is ridiculous. But also, we don't know where his floor is. And that floor could get really, really low if he has an especially bad time, which is something that I think we need to consider. Yes, Brandt is a more renowned player and has spent significantly longer in the spotlight, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a better player, which is something quite important to keep in mind. In addition to that, there has been a little bit of conversation around John Stones. Now, John Stones, being the Man City centre-back, has been away with... Do we do Shea Charles first? Right, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a poll in the chat. This time it is going to be a poll, because I am deliberately going to make this one take a bit of time. Do we discuss you, or do we discuss you? Or do we do this? Just get your votes in. I've popped in a quick question there. Which do we discuss first? Shea Charles, John Stones, or a mystery segment? Which I think is a fun way of doing that. I kind of want to see what people want to do, which is always fun. And I promise there's only sometimes shenanigans. Not all the time. Occasionally we do shenanigans, but it's you know. Okay, so you guys are leaning Shea Charles over John Stones, which is interesting. Stones wants 6 million a year in wages. To be fair, we are in the process of giving fairly big wages to players at the moment. That's what we tend to do, especially on a free. Like, sure, he might want 6 million a year in wages, but how much are we saving on a transfer fee? You could look at that, and we'll get onto that when we discuss Stones. Stones is currently third place in the poll, behind the mystery segment and Shea Charles, which is, you know, that's fine, it's normal. So I'll wait until we get another couple of votes, and then we'll go ahead. And you guys might have to remind me of the order in which we're doing things, but that's fine. Anyway, I'll give you 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the votes are in. Thank you very much, guys. And the votes are in, and you guys have voted to do today's episode of Countdown. So we'll go 2 large, 4 small, I think. And we'll try and work it out. And our number that we are aiming for is 806. Right. This one's actually quite tough. Oh, is this one doable? 9. Hold on. Do I click? If I click solve, does it just solve it, or does it give me a potential route? Fuck! No! Oh, it wasn't solvable. Yes, I knew it. Yes. Right. Anyway, we'll do another one. Because you guys voted for the mystery segment, you got the mystery segment, and then we will move on to Shea Charles, and then you've not done it because it didn't do. Then we'll move on to the Shea Charles bit, and then we'll move on to John Stones, and that'll be fine. Anyway, we'll do too big again. Right, fuck off. I'm not. This is mathematically difficult. There we go. 6 million's less than Wilson. Is it? Do we know what Wilson's on? Other than some Welsh stuff, I don't know. 161. There we go. Yeah, got it. 6 times 10 is 60. Add to the 100, 160. 3 minus 2 is 1. Add it on. Bosh. Easy peasy. Right, that's the countdown segment done. And remember, every single stream we will be doing a countdown segment until Hannah Bone says that countdown is better than 15 to 1. So, we're going to keep on doing that, and it's going to be a good time. Anyway, back to the full face cam. Right, so, Shea Charles. The main specific gist surrounding the Shea Charles conversation has come from what I would describe as not a very good source. And this is the case for a lot of people who keep an eye on a lot of different sources. Mainly because many of these sources are bollocks, and it's good to have an idea of who is who. In this instant, the source is Pete O'Rourke. Now, Pete O'Rourke is not the best of sort of guiding lights when it comes to information, because sometimes he just hears a rumour and goes, fine, I'm going to run with it. Sometimes he just makes things up. Now, he said earlier today that Leeds United are set to walk away from a deal for Southampton midfielder Shea Charles, with other targets on their agenda instead. Whether or not this is the reality of the situation, we don't know, because the entire conversation has gotten very muddled. We've heard from a few different directions that it was on, which, to be fair, at the time, I thought that was based on good information. We will find out at some point what was going on with that. In another direction, we've got people saying that it was already off and we'd already given up and all this kind of stuff, which very clearly not, if we've only just rumoured to sort of pull out of it. And then you also had people, including Peter Rock, who is saying right now that Leeds United have only just pulled out of that conversation. Which means that everything is weird and confusing, because we don't know where anything is. And for me, I think it is maybe indicative of what Leeds United's strategy overall is. And the way I'm going to put it is, we know that Leeds don't like overpaying for players. There's no doubt about that. We never have done, and we will continue to look after our own interests in that regard, which is fine, good, makes sense. Your issue, comes when you have a club like Southampton, who seem to be of the opinion that they are able to hold Leeds United as effectively hostage. To go, no, well, you're stuck in this conversation now, so enjoy that. We'll just keep on negotiating, and you know what? We want £30 million, so we'll keep saying that to the press. And Leeds will be sat in that conversation going, well, we're not going to pay £30 million. Why would we pay £30 million? Because that would be insane. That would be a stupid thing to do. Because we don't value him that highly. To which Southampton then go, yeah, but we're going to reject everything underneath it. And then you get into this situation where it felt like previously there was a deal effectively agreed between the two clubs, which I think might have been the case. We might have gone, right, okay, so we think this 23 plus £2 million or whatever it was deal is good. And Southampton might have initially had some conversation around, yeah, that's actually roughly what we were looking for. Only to then follow it up with, but what if you were to pay us even more money? At which point we go, yeah, fuck that noise. We're not going to be part of that conversation anymore. Which doesn't mean that the negotiation is done. It doesn't mean that it's finished. It doesn't mean that there's not a chance, but it makes it way more difficult. It turns it into a case of you don't know what source of information to trust, because the Peter O'Rourke thing might be based in reality, but it might also be based in the fact that we've not actually heard anything concrete for a little while. The discussions about things being done might be concrete and might have been based on accurate information at the time, but we don't know how that conversation's evolved. So I think the Shea Charles thing is now just a little bit too messy, and I would completely understand Leeds United if at this stage of the conversation they just go, no, we'll just go. We don't need someone in defensive midfield right now. We've got defensive midfielders. We've got Gruev can do the job, Ampadu, Stack, Tanaka can do the job, Longstaff can do the job. So why would we stay in that discussion as opposed to like just pulling out and go, no, you don't have the power in this conversation? Because the reality is they don't. We are the buying club. We don't have to like throw money at a wall until he comes. We can just go, yeah, actually, I'm not super convinced that we want to sign you, so we'll leave that be. This is what I think the thing is, Gavin. I think we've effectively learned the lesson from Paishao and gone, no, if you just want to drive up the price, no, we're done. Which is where I think this report has come from. Like, I don't have any like insider information or anything daft like that. It's just a case of looking at it from an outside perspective. It makes so much sense for it to be a case of, well, we were looking at him, and then the price got prohibitive, and we just said no, because that's what made a lot more sense to us. In the same way as I think we'd already learned the Paishao lesson when it came to Strand Larsen. Because there was a point where Strand Larsen's price was going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and it went from we might get him for 20 million to he's going to cost 40 million, and at that point the amount of stuff that you heard about Leeds being interested went real quiet. It went from Leeds are going to make a move to Leeds have a little bit of an interest to Palace want him. So I think there was a certain point there where it was like, no, you're just pushing the price as high as you feasibly can, which means that at the end of the day you're pricing us out of this. And that's fine, you can price us out as much as you want, but that doesn't mean that we're going to pay those prices, which is the right move for Leeds United. And I'm very, very glad that we're learning that and that we've evolved in our approach, which is genuinely lovely. Like, when it comes to midfield, I don't actually think that we need Shea Charles. I think Shea Charles was one of those where he's a very good player, has a hell of a lot of potential to him, and if nurtured in the right way, would point us in the right direction and ultimately become a very, very big player for us and improve his career and all this kind of stuff. And that's that, basically. And in addition to that, there is the further point that needs to be made, where if I have a little bit of a search just to make sure I've got my information right, because if I get this wrong, I will look like a twat. There we go. They're not exclusively up against us. It's not just a case of we are against Southampton and he will choose to come to Leeds United or he will choose to stay at Southampton, because he's got 1 year left on his contract. And when he's got 1 year left on his contract, and Southampton are probably looking to keep him so they can increase their chance of promotion and get him on a new deal. But we can just say, well, no. Because at the end of the day, all you've done is annoy your own player. Because very clearly, after the conversations that we've heard have happened, he wants to make a move. All you're doing is pissing him off, and your own promotion push is going to falter and stutter and fail as a result of it. Because the morale in your side is just going to... They have a year that they can trigger. Sure, brilliant. But if you've got a player at your club that very, very much does not want to be there, and you trigger an extension on your contract, is that going to be a player that's going to want to really put in any effort for you? Or is he just going to do everything he can to sort of push that move? That's what I think the direction is going to be on Shea Charles now. And it's not exactly a player that is a necessity for us either, so they're effectively playing themselves, which is sort of interesting. But, well, if they want to fuck up, they can fuck up. That's what they're doing. Anyway, let's have a quick skim of the chat, and then we'll do a little bit of John Stone's natter. Surely at some point you need to put a line in the sand, this much by this date, take it or leave it, I'm over it. Yeah, I think that's roughly what we will have done. I think there was the discussion around us having a date by which we were effectively treating it as a deadline, being the 13th, and then the move wasn't done by that point, so I think it could be a case of, well, okay, that was that, bye-bye. Enjoy having Shea Charles when he doesn't necessarily want to be there. I saw someone's channel predicted Leeds to finish 15th this season, predicted Spurs finishing 4th. I think Spurs won't do badly. Spurs will climb the table because they've got a decent manager and they've added some very, very expensive talents this season. It's more a case of, will they be able to gel quickly enough? And that's going to be the real challenge for De Zerbi, I think. And another real challenge for De Zerbi is none of the players that he's got at his club right now are actively criminals. And as we know from his time in Marseille, if they're not a criminal, then he doesn't really want them in the team. So at that point, it's hard to sort of gel without that sort of prison yard beating mentality that De Zerbi likes to encourage, allegedly. Whatever. I don't mean that. It was a humorous effect. De Zerbi, you might be an alright guy, just have better hiring practices. Where were we? Say sell him to the other bidder. Oh, wait a minute, offer him 10 million next summer and paying 15. Yeah, I mean, that might make a little bit of sense. Rumours say Leeds are in talks with Lyon over Pavel Sulc. Yes, we've been through the Pavel Sulc stuff. It could be a very, very, very good move for Leeds United if we are looking at getting that one done. I don't know specifically the numbers in terms of what we expect to pay, but Lyon are reportedly again in a little bit of financial trouble. Haven't quite been able to completely pull it back from last season, which could work very nicely in our favour. They signed him for 7.5 million euros. They will want to make a profit because he had a very, very good season. But I don't see him being an obscene amount of money. He might cost a bit, but we don't know how much a bit is, and that's sort of fine by me, to be honest with you. Segment on who's going to be Tuesday's plane. There's a plane on Tuesday? Have a look. Flight radar. Oh. Can we have a flight radar jingle? It's just flight radar in someone that is able to sing. Right. Leeds Bradford arrivals. Saturday, Sunday. I need to log in. There we go. I hate that doing this has meant that I've had to... How do you know there's a plane coming on whatever day? Because whoever found that one out has one of the more expensive subscriptions on the Flight Radar website, because I've got the bronze subscription, no, silver, sorry. The silver subscription. And I can't say anything for Tuesday because it doesn't go that far ahead in terms of arrivals. You get 36 hours of departures and 36 hours of arrivals, so I can't get to Tuesday yet, which is a little bit of a shame. Leaving for the US tour. Okay. Or is it a bit... Hold on. Leeds to USA flight. Time. Fuck that. I'm not doing a 10-hour stream. Normally I would do a fly along stream, but I'm not doing 10 hours. That feels like it's a bit much. No, thank you. Based on our current signing and links, we appear to be aiming higher than Charles. Changing the recruitment strategy. I don't think it's a change in strategy. I think because Trafford sort of fits the same strategy as Charles would, being young player that I think is homegrown, that we can sort of bring up in the club and make a core foundation of the next stage. Brandt and Stones, I think, are a different part. Brandt and Stones remind me of what we were doing last season, which is not a bad thing. And Schultz I would call part of the sort of young reinforcement thing. So I think we've got two separate strategies going on, to be honest with you. We've got the free players that we can throw a lot of wages at and would add quality to the side, and we've got young players that we can maybe pay a little bit less, because obviously, but gradually bring up and will be here for an extended period of time. Getting for free next season, that'd be fine. Stones 2 injury prone, keep clear, maybe. 10 hours with 2 meals. Wrexham 1, Man U 0. That was fantastic. On the Stones thing, this is going to be a relatively sort of quick one to cover. Yeah, basically, Leeds are linked with signing John Stones. In addition to Leeds, however, there are links with Juventus and Inter Milan, which means it would be a fairly difficult one for us to get done. I think he'd be a very good signing. I think in terms of the wages that he is reported to want, it's not excessive. That's like a fairly okay sum of money for us to be spending on a very senior centre-back that will be playing probably not the most football, but will be playing a bit of football. Yeah, I don't know. If we do that, that would be a very nice deal, and would mean that the sort of backline is cemented. But I don't know. I think in the sort of mentory role, he'd be fantastic. But I think, yeah, maybe if someone like a Bornau is leaving, maybe if someone like a Beal is leaving, but I think he'd want to play a lot of football. DCL was injury prone last year as well. Not last year. Well, he had a history of being injury prone. I think our physios are just geniuses, to be honest with you. Like, very clearly they're good at what they do, because our injury record last season was, I think, one of the best in the league. I think we had the fewest matches missed of any side, which is fantastic, to be honest with you. But either way, hold on, I need to send someone something. Copy you. There we go. I can see a reserve centre-half playing a few games a la Justin. Yeah, Justin played a hell of a lot of football last season. It's going to be a bit weird because I don't know if Justin starts next season, but I feel like he's good enough to have deserved a start. Like, I think in our ideal first 11, Justin doesn't necessarily get a place. If I just do football team builder, lineup builder, there we go. So if we are playing with our 5 at the back, as we were last season, I'll switch over to here. There we go. So formation is sort of a 5-2-2-1. There we go. Then you're going to want a goalkeeper. For now, it's Lucas Perry, but people might not necessarily want that. Then your left back is going to be Goodmanson. Your left centre back will be Muha, who is still on paper a Sassuolo player, but that's fine. Your centre back will probably be Biol. And your right centre back is looking like Joe Rodon. Radoin. There we go. Then right back, probably looking at Jaden Bogle. So where does James Justin fit? That's where you get the confusion. Then Stack and Ampadu are, let's be honest, immovable objects in this squad. Up top, looks like it'll probably be Calvert-Lewin again. I don't have a problem with that in the slightest, to be honest with you. And then you get to what goes on behind. And you've got a couple of options. You've got Harry Wilson, who is a fairly good option. We know that he does what he does very, very well at a Premier League level. And then this one, which is where things get a tad complex. Because this, at the moment, is very likely Noah Okafor. But the question mark comes in of, does it stay Noah Okafor? Because is Noah Okafor a 10? Not really. In the event that Wilson plays wider and Okafor plays wider, fantastic, brilliant, I've got no problem with that. But in the event that we sign a number 10, that's where things get a little bit more complicated. And then it gets even more complicated if you go to a 4-2-3-1, in which case Gabby... oh my god, you can move them around. I didn't know you could do that. Ah! Right, in which case, Joe gets lost, which is fine. Muharemovic goes here. Gabby goes here. Jesus, this went scuffed very quickly. Stack goes here. And then instead of Jakobiel, who very obviously isn't going to be the winger, you have Sulc. No, not... What? Right, there we go. Sulc. Good old Pavel. And then you put Wilson on the wing, you put Sulc here. That's a good side in the Premier League. That is a side that will not have problems for the majority of the time. But the question will be raised by a lot of people, well, what do you do with Jakobiel? Because Biol isn't playing in this system, and sure, Biol isn't necessarily playing in the system, but that's sort of okay, because that's why we have a squad. The reason we have a squad is so we can adjust our systems for different teams. I would prefer to see this against Hull than I would have us play 3 at the back or 5 at the back, because that is way too passive for playing against a Hull side. That feels like that's just sort of accepting problems. But then again, you have a look at the 2 different versions of the squad. Does it make sense to sign John Stones? Not really. Because if you're playing with a back 4, this is it. These are your 2 centre-backs. If you're playing with a back 3, Biel, Muharemovic, Rodon. Maybe Bornau. Maybe Justin. And I can see the argument for getting another centre-back in. That'd be fine. But the issue with getting another centre-back in is you would need someone that is on the up and up and potentially improving and sort of growing their role in the team, rather than someone that is on the back end of their career. And sort of John Stonesy, which feels rude, but at the end of the day, he's going to want to play a lot of football. And I don't realistically know if in either of these setups that is something that we can offer to him. Which is a shame, but that's alright. I'm playing 3 midfield against that side in dominant possession. What, against this side? You're dominating possession against Ampadu and Stack, with Schultz also dropping in and pressing, with Wilson also pressing, with Okafor also pressing, with DCL also pressing. I don't know if you're dominating possession against this. I mean, for years we had Firpo, now we've got... Right, I will have no smack talk on Junior Firpo. Junior Firpo was a key part of us getting back to the Premier League, and we will not be sassing. Stones a level above Rodon. In that case, explain to me why Stones has played shit all football in the last however many months. Rodon was excellent last season, and I don't think gets enough credit. You've also got to consider that he's one of the quicker centre-backs, which means that against pacier wingers, Rodon can deal with the issues that Stones wouldn't. Because when Bogle's gone and just pissed off up the wing, that's where Rodon comes across and effectively plays as a fullback. Does John Stones have the pace to do that? I don't think so. We registered 24 players last year. I think we registered all 26 because Melia was on the list. Lost for 2 goalkeepers, Byram and Strouk. Strouk, yes. We have lost 2 goalkeepers and Byram. We've gained Muharemovic and Wilson, so we've got 2 spots left. And I think at the moment we only need 1 keeper, because we've still got Lucas Perry here. So it's fine. Byron. Oh no, wait. Did Byron have an extension? Byron was discussing an extension. I'm thinking about Cairns. I don't know. But either way, I'll be ending the stream fairly shortly because I've got work in a few minutes. I am working the England match, which means that I will not, at the very least, personally be doing a watch along in the event, and this is me sort of directly calling out. So I don't know if he's watching. He's probably not. It's a Saturday night. He's got better things to do. But in the event that Joe is doing a watch along on Big Up, I may hop over, but we'll see. I'm yet to work that one out. Pep was having Stones moving into midfield to make an extra centre midfielder at City. Yes, but that doesn't strictly make him that right back, which I think makes things a little bit complicated. I will not personally be doing a watch along. If there is a watch along over on Big Up with Joe, I will potentially join him during work, but we'll have to find out how everything goes. Like, probably in the event that he is, that'd be good. But I don't know. We'll find out. Anyway. Okay, I'm going to end that there because I've got multiple images that I need to edit before I start work, but we'll find out. Stone's been playing for a team competing for the Champions League. Joe's been competing for the Championship. I love Joe, by the way. Yeah, but they do different things. That's the point. France win convincingly. It depends on what lineups come out because I can see us not particularly caring. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed the stream, please pop a like on it. That's always massively appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm pushing my way towards 8,000 and we are slowly but surely getting there. Over time, it takes a while, but you know what? We'll get there in the end. You could even be a channel member if you want. I do a bunch of videos early. Basically, any video that I do, I will upload as soon as I have recorded it for members. So that's always quite nice. But yeah. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all later. Toodaloo, me amigos.